Okay.
Andrew, it's time to record.
Oh,
Perfect.
so we're reusing the tape from
Last time.
Yeah,
We're not
right.
going to use our copy of the 1954 Gojira with subtitles on Betamax, right? We're not going to dub over that yet.
Who would record over the original Toho Gojira?
That's what I'm saying. We need, that's like, in case of emergency, break glass, that's a last resort Betamax.
Okay,
No way.
that's super last. Okay, so we have this one remaining Betamax tape, and this is how we're able to record this and get this out into the world, hopefully, to try and find help. Guys, hi, help. We are trapped inside of a video store. When the pandemic hit, my friend Andrew and I, we freaked out and ran to the closest building we could, boarded it up, and we have been living here ever since. And we're only living on movies to survive the insanity.
And amongst that, the terrifying world we live in now, we're hearing strange noises and things are happening. I heard that roaring monster again, in the morning that came by right next to the video store where we're at, and it made all that noise and it actually woke me up.
Well,
And
it seems to be coming like once a week, and like it feels like it's like every 7 days.
right? And but I will say I'm really glad that I woke up to it today, because I woke up hearing that roaring, but when it quieted and I stood still and I held my breath and it quieted, I heard something fall in the night drop box. But I don't know what it is. I can't check it, and that's why I was waiting for you to get up. Because I don't have a key. Have you found a key?
It needs a key?
Yeah, we need a key to get into the door to get into the box. But I mean, somebody might have sent a message. I don't know what it could be, though. Do people know? Did they get our message?
Oh my God! Someone heard, Andrew. Someone heard. We're gonna be freed. We're gonna be helped. This is. Oh, okay. We need to find this key.
Or have you ever picked a lock? Do you know the credit card trick where you can wiggle it around and shimmy the door open? I don't know anything about that.
I don't think anyone does. I think that's all just movie bullshit. I mean, we can try, but I really don't think it really works.
Yeah, I don't want to. I don't think money really matters anymore. I'm pretty sure any credit we've built up is gone. In this pandemic apocalypse we're hiding from. So I mean, if we break our credit cards, it's not going to be the end of the world. But even then, I'm hanging on.
We burned all our cash the other night just to stay warm. So, I mean, yeah, credit cards aren't going to be anything in the new post-apocalyptic future we're obviously living in, but too afraid to leave our safety to go see.
You're right. And, I'll never forget the smell of burning money. It was just horrendous.
It was. It was like hours and hours in the blink of an eye.
It's so weird. It's just like watching all that time I spent at those jobs, working for these dollars. Just none of it matters anymore.
So many dollars gone.
But now we have hope. Now we have the late night drop box that's attached to the building. Someone knows we're here. So we're going to find that key. If we have to tear that apart, if it's hidden in every movie case, we're going to watch every movie until we find that key.
That's a good plan, Andrew. Let's do that.
We started our search, at least I did. I knew about this when I heard it, and that's why I started my search. The first movie box I opened was for Beyond Darkness. And I was like, well, the title's kind of cool. The cover's pretty cool. Maybe we should just watch it.
And we watched it.
We did. Oh, did we watch this movie?
Apparently it's punishment week this week, so thank you for picking this one.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm really glad.
No. That is So you found a tape for us to watch. I found a hairdryer in the back of the store that's obviously making noises through a wall. Let's discuss the monstrosity that is Beyond the Darkness. Andrew, give us your elevator pitch.
So, I'm going to set this up a little. So it was made in 1990, so it's not that old. I think Vice Academy was 89, so this is just a year later. We're in my brain what is 10 to 15 years ago when it's really 30. But it's not, in my opinion, that old. The writer-director of this was Claudio Fragrasso. And if you know that name or familiar with it, I'm so sorry. If you don't know that name, it's because this guy's movies are critically, he has made the worst movie ever made, which is known as Troll 2.
Mm.
This also stars the young kid from Troll 2 as well. I will say that this is part of that from what I remember in my giallo Italian horror days. This is one of those movies that was kind of, they call it like the spaghetti horror, because it's made in Italy, but all the dialogue is in English. And a lot of times with these movies, they would just hire people and they would say, speak whatever language you know, and then they would just ADR all the dialogue in English.
Is that why most of it looks pretty accurate, but some of it looks really out of place?
Yes. And
Okay.
that is also why all the actors are like oddly, like, you can't, like, though there was one priest, George, who was apparently drunk and possessed. And he just looked real fucked up the whole movie. Like, he's just a weird looking guy, and I feel like that is a common theme in these movies. They hire these people because they're unknown, they're probably cheap, and then you're just like, but you're just kind of weird looking. But anyways, elevator pitch. This, in my opinion, if I had to give it like an idea, I'd say this was an Italian attempt at putting Poltergeist and The Exorcist in a blender.
Oh, okay.
That's the best way I could describe it. It's about a woman who has, and I'll use her words, who has devoured the souls of innocent children and is on death row. She dies on death row, which we don't see happen, and I think she possesses this priest George and gives him her Bible. Then, like, evil Bible, of course. And then a family moves into a house and she's haunting the house with like cloaked figures, and they need to exorcise the house to save their family. That's I have no other way to describe the plot of the movie other than that.
That's your entire plot synopsis. That's the back of the box.
That is all. That's about all that made sense.
All right, all right. So I'm really glad you said it that way because you said it far more elegantly than I would have. I would have said, priest comes in, questions faith, shit happens. I don't know what happens.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't even. I couldn't tell that he was questioning his faith.
So in the very beginning, when he meets the murderer on death row, which I love, they have handwritten on the walls, death row arrowed this way.
Yeah, and I noticed that too. The text on that death row is written all like evil and
Yeah,
hellish, and
right.
visiting room was written like an angelic
Yes,
flowing script.
and it's so on the nose, it's almost like insulting.
Yeah.
It's like we fucking get it, man. So anyway, so he's talking with the murderer on death row, and he's like, "Don't you know God will save you?" And she's like, "This is the one true God." And then she opens up the book to Baphomet, which is another conversation point that I want to bring up.
Oh,
But
I
but then
yep.
but then he's like staring at it, and he's like closing his eyes, like, what religion should I believe in? And it's obvious, like every time we see him from then on, he's questioning. He's like, does God even exist? And at the end, he's like, well, of course God exists. Like, where's that fucking shift? Where, like, his character arc is so weird that he should have started with God absolutely exists, and then slowly throughout the movie being more taken away from it and saying like, okay, maybe God doesn't exist, instead of at the very beginning, maybe God doesn't exist, and then him just snapping to attention. It just didn't flow.
Yeah, there were definitely three stories going on in this movie. There was the poltergeist haunted house story.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There was and so we'll call that part, we'll call that poltergeist. There was the de- soul of a killer possessing people to try and kill other people. That's
Mm-hmm.
like that movie Fallen with Denzel Washington.
Or Shocker.
Oh yeah, it's like Shocker. So it's like, okay, so we got two different stories there. And then there's that overarching, and you said it very well, that overarching movie about a priest, and this is more Exorcist, I believe, because this was a
Yes.
running theme of The Exorcist, where the priest is questioning his faith, does he still believe? And this is that moment or that situation that he needs to overcome to truly believe. So there's all this. This had the same problem as, and I'm going to say this, and you're probably going to laugh, this had the same problem as Aquaman. where
I'm listening.
you have three fairly solid ideas, but due to time constraints and budgets, you can only do it in one movie. And you think, fuck it, let's just smash them all into one movie. It'll be fine.
Yeah, that's actually exactly how it feels. It feels like they had short film ideas, and by putting them all together, or what honestly I really think was, what year did this come out in? This was 80,
1990.
90.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay,
That's what
so
I'm
that
saying. It's
even
not
like
that old.
it solidifies my reason in here even more. Is they looked at movies at what sold. They looked at Evil Dead 2 with the chaotic, like over the top action. It needs to be nonstop, or The Gate, where it's just nonstop tension the whole way through those movies. Okay,
Hmm.
and then you have movies like The Exorcist, which did really well on both parts, the horror audience and the mainstream audience. And they're like, well, we want to do that too. And then there's Poltergeist, which rocked the fucking 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And by combining these three movie elements, they missed the fucking point on all of them.
Yes. They,
And the thing that caught my attention most, like if I were to look back at this movie and say one thing, it was fucking pacing.
oh, God. Whew. Just horrible facing.
Well, it was not like okay, so like it would go from one scene of them moving into the house, but as soon as we saw the house, like for the very first time in the film, there's this horrible music, like a sting that's like dun, dun, dun. And throughout the film, I noticed that all the music was wildly out of place.
Oh, God, yes.
Every song did not fit the scene. And it was way over the top, and it wanted to like force, like really shoehorn this idea that this is tension, this is serious, but it never felt that way in the visuals. So at the end of the movie, in the credits, I really wanted to see who the composer was, and there was none. They actually bought all the music from some other source and then just threw it into their movie. Like it was not made for this movie.
Oh, wow. And okay, I'm really glad you said that because there were some moments musically. There's kind of, I guess it's that style of film. This would be kind of like the film style, but in these Italian spaghetti horror movies that came out, and
Mhm.
then there's a slew of them. One of the one of the two trademark things that you can tell it's one of those types of movies is there's a fuck ton of zooming, and the
Oh.
other thing is there's a hard cut for audio cues when it comes to music. So it's
Okay.
like
So why do they do that? What is the drawing factor to that? Because
I
as you
don't
know, any
know.
film, there has to be a reason behind it. Like to me, the initial first thought that comes to mind is when they do a hard cut from the scene that in the middle of a fucking song. And I'm wondering if that is like they didn't like re-edit the song. They just played it until, well, that's as long as we want it, cut it. Um, I'm wondering if they think that's jarring to the audience.
I wonder if, yeah, I agree with you. I think maybe they think like, oh, it just cut off abruptly. Is that something like, when you break rapport with someone and subconsciously they know something's wrong, but they can't really put their finger on it because it's just a rapport breakage.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
maybe it's something along those lines, but it's the fact that it's so abrupt and it is so like there's not even an attempt to transition. They're like, no, we're somewhere else now. The music is gone. Forget about the music.
Well, yeah, it's almost like saying like, okay, whatever just happened didn't happen anymore. Don't like just forget about that. This part's more important. And it's always like a no music, dead shot
Yep.
of just something really normal and boring. And that's what makes me think, well, maybe it's jarring to us because it's ripping us out of like even if it's a scene that's building tension,
Hmm.
we're still kind of comfortable in that mindset of okay, this is where tension's going. I understand movie language, so I should be tense here. And by ripping us out of that scene really quick, it jars us into like a shit, something's wrong.
Yeah.
But
But
I don't think that's their real intent. I think it was just a dude who cut the film and that was it.
yeah, I'm with you. I think we're looking too close. I think they're just like, well, we're done with that scene, so we don't need that anymore. Why
Right.
would we carry that music or those sound effects over? That's in that other scene. Now we're looking at a highway because that's usually it's like a car or a highway or something.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
a really really bad example or a really good example of how bad it was, in my opinion, was the scene in the church where George, our priest from the opening, who let me just frame this a little bit. I think I can't tell, and maybe you tell me I'm crazy. I think the serial killer spirit took possession of his body because they keep saying throughout the movie that he's possessed. And
Right,
there
right.
are moments where he's drinking heavily and wandering the streets and like yelling at people like a raving lunatic and hallucinating about the serial killer woman that died by killing all these children. But then, like, later in the movie, he's acting like a normal priest,
Yes,
which I don't think a possessed priest would do. I don't think that a possessed priest would be able to be like, I can give an exorcism. That won't
correct.
affect me in any way. Um, but okay, so he's possessed. He goes to the church, and there's an older priest at the church, and George, our possessed priest, is playing the organ.
Yeah. Oh, oh,
You know
oh,
what I'm
okay.
talking about?
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about because I made like a huge underlying note during this scene. And this was the first part in the movie where I said the producer is running low on money.
Yes.
Fire the boom guy, and we don't need audio for this scene. They recorded it on a potato in the back of the church.
My favorite part about that scene was he was sitting on the organ playing the organ music, right? And
Yeah.
then they started having a conversation, and he stood up and moved away from the organ, but the organ music continued in the background.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I was so stunned by the bad audio.
So it was like he's playing it, but then he gets so it's like, so what was he doing? Was he playing a tape and just
Oh, maybe he was
acting?
doing like an automated one, like in the Old West.
Yeah, yeah, like the self-playing organs or
Yes.
something. But I couldn't believe it. I'm like, so wait.
Or maybe he's so demonic, Andrew,
Yeah,
that his demon spirit continues to play the creepy church music.
that must have been what it is, the possessed side. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
there were,
Speaking of possession, I'm about to possess this Mountain Dew. Uh,
yeah.
what is Pitch Black? When I thought Pitch Black went out a long time ago.
Oh, sir, it did. Oh, it
Oh,
did.
good.
I found an old cup of, or an old packet of instant cappuccino.
Oh,
So I'm attempting, to get a little caffeine that way. I don't know if I can do the sugary stuff right now.
oh, I
It's a
feel
lot. It's been a lot of pitch black Mountain
man, my
Dew.
teeth are actually like falling out.
Dude, I know.
Not really, but they definitely feel like it.
Yeah, we have no way to brush our teeth. It's not like a movie store has a toothbrush in it.
I've been brushing my teeth with those really expensive Disney VHS over there, the ones in the clamshells that
Oh
everyone's
yeah,
$900,000 each.
that's good because it's got ridges to it because of the clamshell.
Exactly. Ruffles have ridges.
Ooh, ruffles. I there were okay, so I'm sorry. This movie's so crazy. It's like I have so much I want to say to you about this, but I honestly it's hard to know where to start.
Yeah,
Um
it's it's definitely like taking all your ideas and putting them into a salad blender and then having a kid just come over and throw it over your kitchen. It's like, what the fuck do I start with here? Why
yeah.
did I even start making salad to begin with? Why do I have a kid in my house? That shouldn't be happening. And then should I even pick the salad up off the floor or should I let the dog
No,
eat it? It's
let the
it's, it's
dog
just a
eat it.
wild variety of shit all thrown at you at once and you don't know which one to take care of first. Andrew, I'm with you on that. It is fucking rough.
There
Um, my
there are a
notes
couple
are.
things I can call out unless you had something you wanted to address first.
Oh my, yeah. Let's go down that rabbit hole. No, sir. You go ahead and address something that's actually coherent.
So there are a couple of lines of dialogue I'd like to just talk out with you to make sure I heard them correctly. So first of all, when the serial killer lady is walking to death row, so death row is where you go to die.
Right.
She stops and turns to the priest, the serial killer lady, and she looks back at him and she says, "Come, priest, I want you to witness my last orgasm." Does she not know what death row is? Does
No,
she
no, no,
knows
no,
that she's not
no,
that's not what's gonna happen, right?
no. And she's obviously aware. I mean, she's in prison. She's cognizant of that. But I think she's just trying to be like, oh, I love death. Death is amazing. Yeah, I really don't think this was that dumb. Like, we watched Vice Academy,
Yeah.
and I honestly think maybe the actors and the writers and the characters all believed, things that were dumb. But this, truth be told, this movie was rather coherent as a semi plot. It was made okay.
Yes.
It's obviously shot on film. Um,
Absolutely. It had a
it,
nice warm feeling. Like when I watched it, like that film stock, I definitely
Mhm.
felt like it was comforting.
it it reminded me of like late 70s film stock. So I don't think they got good film stock, and they might have even shot it on 16 millimeter, but it looks 35.
For sure.
Um, but you're right. Like it does have that warm kind of filmic look that is only shot on film, but it's everything not behind the camera that fails miserably in this.
Yes.
Like they got a competent camera crew.
Oh yeah, the cinematography was like the lighting was
Yes.
pretty good. The qual like everything they had that opening shot when they were going into death row into the
Mm.
prison. That was a really impressive Steadicam shot, like a continuous
Hmm.
Steadicam
Hmm.
shot for a movie that was of this caliber. That's
Yes.
I was like, "Whoa, okay, hang on. I might be impressed."
There, there's that age old riff track comment in the movie Deadly Prey,
Mhm.
where it's like, hold on, you are almost becoming a movie here. Um, so I think it's that like there's so many moments in this movie. I'm like, okay, we'll take this seriously, and then they zoom in.
Yeah.
Like if they were to do one zoom in the movie, I could understand it's like this is very out of place, this is uncomfortable, because zoom makes you feel cheap. It makes you feel extremely cheap unless it's
Yes.
done like once in a movie where it's like okay, something is out of place because it takes you out of it. It's kind of like having a handheld camera, and if you use a handheld camera in a scene, there has to be tension or someone's POV. Like those are the two drawing aspects. If you use handheld camera in a sappy love scene, it's going to feel wildly fucking out of place and it's going to make you feel weird while watching it.
And when they use the zoom, it's not like they do it once. It's like cut to this face, zoom in, cut to that face, zoom in, cut back to the
Yeah.
original face, zoom, zoom, zoom.
There was one where they're on the two people were on the phone and they were zooming into one person but not the other. And I was like, did they forget how they shot this other one?
I think they did, and and it's funny too. And going usually before or after a zoom, they would, and I might be connecting dots here where they don't need to be connected, but I felt like the actors would hold a pause for a very long time,
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
and then they would slowly zoom in, like they'd be like, "Oh no," and they would stop talking but hold the O face and slowly zoom in. And I was thinking, I had read something where it said they thinking comparing something like that to John Carpenter's Halloween,
Mm,
and how in the beginning when we have the reveal of young Michael Myers, and it's
yes,
just that
yes.
that slow dolly in shot
It's
of,
a dolly in though.
yes, it's a dolly and it's not a
Yeah.
zoom, but the parents are standing still and Michael is standing still, and that is a theater tactic to, sometimes I've read actors will stand in that position when like the curtain rises, or they will
Mm.
stand in that and freeze in that position to emphasize an important moment that needs to be emphasized within the story. So I
That
didn't
makes
know
sense.
if maybe they were trying to do that theory, because if so, they failed miserably.
Yes,
Because
oh my god, I can just imagine sitting down with whatever Sergio director dude, and just um, asking this as a purely theoretically based film. Like, please tell me your Kuleshloff effect in this one scene. Let's break down the left versus right screen aspects of this, and just I want to see him just flail him. Like, part of me honestly thinks that people who make these kind of movies are the ones going, "There's a much deeper meaning."
oh yeah,
But the problem is without communication to your audience, our audience isn't going to understand that communication.
yes, and that's kind of why I think there was funding from a religious
Yes.
organization.
So let's jump into that because that shit got like painfully fucking obvious.
Well, and I didn't. So there were so many priests in this movie. I can't keep track of them all. Some had magic powers, apparently. Um, and when I say that, I mean they could talk from the church and know what's going
Right?
on across town in another room and
He
stop a
Obi-Wan
demon.
Kenobi'd him.
Right. Wi- But he still got dressed up for the part. Like he
Oh,
was
so
like, I
like
can do
so
this in my
Luke.
sweatpants.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, having the overhandedness of the church felt really awkward. But it never felt more awkward as when they were trying to exorcise the little boy
Oh
and
yes.
they just kept screaming. Hold on, I actually like wrote down
I
the
think I
word.
have a
You are
comment too.
banished in the name of Christ. And I don't know why I needed to write it down because they said it 18,000
Thousand
fucking
times.
times.
It
Um,
oh where
what was that noise?
I'm sorry, I sneezed.
Oh, it sounded like someone else was in the video store.
No, 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 no. Unless it was a mouse. But mice don't sneeze.
No, no, mice just say good morning and tip their top hat and they're on their way to you.
Well, I
Uh,
mean that's why we named him Fancy Pants.
well, FP for his real
FP
friend.
for short. Yeah.
And he likes to dance in ghetto movies
He does. Yeah. When we watch Tales from the Hood, he's gonna be all over that.
or the FP.
Or the FP.
Speaking of banishing things in the name of Christ, what the fuck? Like it felt so like, hey, Timmy, your little boy watching this at home is going to be masturbating soon, and that's an affront to God. So bring him into the church, and we will lecture him and make him feel really bad about very normal things.
Yes.
The Catholic Church.
But at the same time, while they preached so much about the Catholic Church, and we know that it was the Catholic Church that they were talking about because they do say at one point in time, one priest says to the dad of the children, I appreciate you coming into Catholicism or something like that. So we know for a fact it's the Catholic Church, right?
Yes. Yes.
So here's the biggest mistake that they fucking made in this whole movie, and it invalidates every claim that they made. A,
Bring it on.
a Catholic priest cannot get married and have children. They have to take a
Ooh.
vow of celibacy. But he has a wife and 2 kids.
So do you think maybe he's just a different sect? Like maybe he started in Catholicism and then moved to something else?
He might have, but I don't think that they would allow him back if he was Catholic because he'd have to live in a rectory. He wouldn't be able to live with his family.
I
Like,
honestly didn't know that.
yeah, they are like when you're a priest, and I was raised Catholic, so I've been around it. Well, yeah, when you're a Catholic priest, you live in a rectory with the other priests of your parish. You don't live by yourself. Just like the
Really?
nuns live in a convent, the priests live in a rectory.
Yeah.
So yeah, they never. They're just there all the time with the other priests. There's nobody else. Like, so I don't know because I think if he was pre-established as late in the game, like he had a wife and kids, and he's like, I want to become a Catholic priest. I don't think they'd let him.
That's a good point.
So right there, I was like, okay, I'm
So
done.
that's your biggest flaw with this film.
Oh, that is not my biggest flaw. That is just that discredited any religious where they tried to like be informative and like this is how
Yeah.
exorcisms work. And speaking of that,
Speaking of that,
I love how they're talking and they walk into a chapel with just pews where people sit in church. So anybody could walk into this church and sit in a
right,
pew and pray. And
right.
they pull a book out of the pew that just is there for
Yes.
anyone and they go, "Here's the rites of exorcism." Like, you just had that in a pew chair readily available?
But my favorite aspect of that is right before he read what the title of it was. And yeah, like so the older priest pulls out the book for him and it's just in a pew and he goes, "Here, you're going to need this." And my first thought is I think another priest knows the Bible, dude. I'm okay. You by you giving me more Pez candy on an already sugar high, you're not really helping the situation. Um so when he read the title, I was like, wait, I want to go to the rest of the pews. Where's the Harry Potter section? It
Yeah, right?
it just felt very weird for something just to have on hand outside of a room.
Yeah, like that is yeah, that's such a specific. I mean, that's almost like handing someone I don't even know how to describe like what that would be like because it's so absurd.
It is.
It
Speaking
there,
of absurdness,
yeah.
I really want to hit the topic of this is on the tail end of the Satanic Panic,
Yes.
where anyone who doesn't know what the Satanic Panic is doesn't matter because we're only talking to ourselves in a video store. We're not like actually talking to someone.
No.
But the Satanic Panic was during the 80s when, well, I guess 80s and 90s, but the concept of this major media backlash where the Catholic Church, not the Catholic Church, sorry, the church started these rumors because they needed a villain to try to boost their own numbers.
Hmm.
And they would leak all this stuff to the news and they would create all these little news blips about Satanists in your county are taking cats and murdering them and hiding razor blades and candy and all this stuff. And the
Hmm.
news just picked up on it and everyone blew the fuck up about it. And then during this time, you had stuff like a lot of fantasy films coming out. You had a lot of horror comics. You had a lot of Dungeons and Dragons was popularized in this time. And
Yep.
the backlash of all this stuff was immense. So of course it made it into every fucking horror movie. Every movie had some kind of Satanist or Satan ritual.
Yep.
So bringing the Satanism into this isn't that new, but it's the imagery. I think anyone who has never done a simple fucking research about Satanism, they always use the image of Baphomet.
Yes. And
And
that,
you know this realm way more than I do. So please enlighten me.
yeah, this drives me insane. And I think I had a note. I wrote down a note every single time they showed the Baphomet drawing where I was like, Baphomet is not satanic.
Yep, it's actually Templar.
It is a Knights Templar worship, and the only reason it crosses that line, from what I've read, is because the head of Baphomet, which is a goat head with big
Mhm.
horns and a pentagram on top, excuse me, a pentacle on top,
There you go.
is very similar to the Sabbatic goat, which is part of Satanism, which is a goat head with horns, but that is inside of a pentagram, the upside down pentacle surrounded in the circle.
Hmm.
So people don't. The Baphomet image is really a hodgepodge of different ideology, kind of put into, like, for lack of a better way to say it, like a super deity that they would worship, because everything takes a piece of it from another piece of religion. So it's got the pentacle, which is a sign of protection, not a sign of evil. It's got the goat head. It's got angel wings. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on, and Wiki will be able to tell you a lot. If we can even access that website, if the internet's a thing anymore, like look that up and just read, because you'll notice after you read it and you go, oh wow, yeah, it's a positive thing. It's a good thing.
Hmm.
It's in the Templars' eyes, it was the same as praying to the Mother Mary or whatever. So it's a positive connotation type thing, and you will notice it, and it will ruin every horror movie for you moving forward, because you will see it pop up everywhere and you will get so angry. At least I do.
And I think it really comes from someone just not doing any kind of research whatsoever. Just like movies with a lot of guns and the unlimited bullet rule and running through a
Yes.
battlefield not being touched and no gravity, doing double jumps in video games. It's just stuff that like is fun, but it holds no ground. So anyone who has done any kind of research, it immediately takes you out of that moment. It takes you out of the fear element where it's like, oh, okay, well, this isn't really it. That's why I really have respect for a movie like Inheritance that
Yes.
really built the lore and like kind of crafted their own stuff. Like that's not all real, right? Or was it? I remember you had a lot more education on this one than I did.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, a lot of that, which was an inheritance, was real.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay.
I believe so. Another one that I think did a stellar job in regards to handling pardon me, non-Christian themed worship would be Hereditary, with how they
That's the
handled.
movie I'm thinking of. What the fuck is Inheritance?
I'm not
Is
sure.
that a Christmas movie?
I It
Christmas
sounds
Inheritance.
familiar, because I'm like, hang on, I've heard of this. I know what you're talking about, and I was
Yes.
on the same page with you.
The Christmas Inheritance, where a girl owns a bar and it's Christmas time, so she gets $1 million. That's what I'm thinking of, the Baphomet $1 million Christmas inheritance movie. It's inherited, a heredity that I'm the movie I'm thinking of.
Yes.
Where it's the little kid screaming out the window and slams his head on
Oh,
a sign, and
oh,
you have 20 minutes of silence.
dude. And you just want to stop the movie and just
I
stand up and
know
go get
it
a
was
hug.
rough, but like that felt more grounded in non-Christian based lore, and I don't want to use Satanism because I actually know what Satanism is, and it's nothing to do with this stuff.
Right. That I think you're absolutely right. Like the Satanism side of things, everybody, we live in, let's be honest, a fairly Christian world
Mhm.
where we've
Right.
got these norms. So you hear Satan and it's been ingrained in our mind, hey, Satan's gonna, take you to hell if you touch your pee-pee or whatever. And it's like, okay. So anything, Satan is such an easy op to get out of something. It's just like an easy, it's satanic, who cares? But
Right.
Satanism has nothing to do with being evil in any way, shape, or form. It's actually just a very selfish, yet at the same time selfless worship, from what I've read.
It's very selfless.
Yeah.
And this is a topic for after we're pleading for help and talking about the movies we watched. Let's get back on topic.
Yeah, to quote the priest, when he was the dad priest, when he was talking to George, are you arguing about theology? Remember that when they were having the argument, and he was like, "No, no, no, because like she eats your soul," and he's like, "No, God has to judge your soul." Wait, are we arguing about theology right now?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. And one of the biggest imagery that I had of like uh, Christianity in this movie, and I think that overplays any other theme that this movie has, is
Oh
that
God,
Christianity
yeah.
is good. It is the way. And it's the beginning where they're first moving into the house and they're bringing out the boxes and the Bible falls out of apparently
Thank you,
we don't see
thank
the
you.
lead up to this. We just see a Bible falling into the mud and then the dad looking really mad and the kid kind of not understanding how he should be directed here.
Yes.
Because he was like, what was that a bad thing? And his dad's just like, and then they cut away. It's like, why are we going back to that? Why isn't that considered a mistake? I'm sure if he pissed on it and threw it into the mud, it's a completely different
Right.
contextual aspect. But it fell out of a fucking box, or so we think.
Well, because this was a really hack job on the editor's behalf, because they had the scene showing the mom and the kids struggling in the back of the fake wood station wagon with the
Yes,
box, but
yes.
they cut it to like a millisecond where you see them struggle, and then the Bible's just in the water.
I honestly did not connect those two.
I was like,
Wow.
oh, this. And then also, I don't know if it was the same scene or it was later. So this house that they're moving into, I guess we kind of touched on this. We didn't. This house is like a hellgate, I
It's a
guess.
hellgate. And then the kid asks, are we really the first family to live in here? Yes, we are, sweetie. By what fucking standard is this a new house?
Yeah, it's fully furnished. There's this creepy ass black
Cobwebs
swan.
everywhere. Yeah, there's a black swan in the middle of the room.
They
And
went all in on that, and they set up Chekhov's black swan, and it never paid off.
Chekhov's black swan. Oh my
It
God.
it never paid off because they set up like, oh, look at this giant black swan, and it was always rocking by itself. And you're thinking, okay, they're setting up a ghost, they're setting up a spirit, they're setting up the serial killer ladies in the house riding it, or something like that. No, it just rocks on its own. That's literally all it ever did, and they spent
Yeah.
way too much time focusing on this fucking black swan. And who was the ad guy that was like, horses I can't do, now swans, I gotcha.
I mean, do you think a black swan is like the idea that because the dad is in there, it's like, well, not all swans are white; some of them are black. I honestly thought the movie, because up until that point in the beginning of the movie, I thought there was still hope.
Yeah,
So when he said, well, not all swans are white, some of them are black, I was thinking, holy shit, he's going to be arguing with his faith and see that maybe Christianity isn't the right way and
hmm
these other people need to be saved. So when all the nuns in black came out and like
yes.
they're like reaching for the family and trying to get in, I thought this is going to go a house on the Haunting of Hill House
Mm-hmm.
route, where it's like, okay, yeah, these spirits are being tortured because they're trapped here. Maybe they just need to like find a new way, find a new path. So not all things that are shrouded in black that look scary are evil. Maybe they are good things, and he needs to like come to his Christianity roots and go, okay, this is the right way. I need to like help these people instead of running away from them.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore it would be that fucking, you had the beginning, you had the bookend of not all things that are black are bad,
Right.
and then you have the rest of the movie where all things are black are bad.
But okay, and you touched on a couple things that we haven't addressed yet that I think we need to walk through, because to give a little clarity, to remind myself almost. But so there's a lot going on with this house. Aside from our black swan, which we thought was something bigger than it really wasn't. But so you touched on the nuns. So this house is a bright white house in nowhere. It's a hellgate. There
Hmm.
is a room with an exposed brick wall with a hole in it,
Yep.
and a light shines through this hole in this brick room. And the daughter thinks that someone's drying their hair.
Right.
And there's a scene that they thought would be funny, and it's just really fucking pointless. Where
I'm a
the
zombie now.
Yes, where the daughter is standing there, and then our Troll 2 son comes in, and he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And the sister goes, "Wait, I have to finish drying my hair." And the boy says, "What do you have to do?" And then the sister changed. She's like, "There's something behind the wall." And you're like, "Oh, hang on. So we're done with the hair thing." Okay.
Yes.
There's something behind the wall. And then he's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "You got to put your ear up to the wall and listen to it and shake your head like it's blowing your hair." Well, I'm still confused on what's behind the wall. And a lot of the things that they said, "Oh, it's all behind the wall. It's all behind the wall." And they set this wall up to be, I guess, something like that red room in the Amityville movie, where
Yeah.
it's like, that's the evil, where the evil lives. They're trying to do something similar here, but it failed miserably for a couple of reasons. Because so that was a portal to another dimension, the dimension of what we can assume is death. And they just go in and out of this like it's no big deal. Like in Poltergeist, it's a big lead up, and the mom and dad argue about who's going to go to save Carol Ann, and they're tying, and it's a whole big thing. This, they're just like in and out, like they're going to the store down in the corner.
Right. There was never any kind of like damnation. Like what I really liked about Stranger Things is when they came out of the Upside Down, they were exhausted, they were tired, they were physically fucked up from being in it. So you brought up the best point is like when they run into this place to find the boy, they come in and out. It's like coming in and out of a closet
Yeah,
without the theoretical backlash of sexuality and coming out of a closet.
right.
You If you want to make a lot of bullshit arguments, this movie could be open for interpretation for fucking days. But
Oh yeah. And in that sense, it's pretty awesome that a shitty movie is so open to people interpreting, but they're never going to come away with a good interpretation of anything. They're going to be like, "Well, maybe it means this," and people are going to be like, "I don't fucking care." This movie
yeah,
wasn't good.
and that's the issue is you could create a halfway decent film and leave it up for interpretation, but if you make shit, I'm not going to take the time to digest this.
And I really wanted to like it, because, like, honestly, the poster's kind of cool.
Hmm.
Like I said, the film quality, that opening continuous Steadicam shot was really cool. I honestly, dude, the dream sequences were kind of cool. They were kind of creepy, where it was like, so there were all these people, women shrouded in the black cloth. We assume they're nuns, but they would,
Mhm.
like, there were dream sequences where the kid would wake up and all they would be surrounded by these black shrouded women, and then the women would come and put the lid to a coffin on top, and they were like in a coffin, and
I liked that scene.
it was really cool.
It felt creepy. It felt justified. It was like, okay, this is an unsettling moment. And this is where it started doing the whole like nonstop tension. And I don't think they know what tension means.
No, and they lost their way in that tension very very quickly.
Like
Um,
so much so that I remember like looking around, being like, "What is happening? I don't care, so I'm gonna go look at this wall."
yeah, and there were times when I actually had to go back and like rewind it and like be like, did they say what? Did I
Yes,
miss
yes,
something?
yes.
Because they were so out of continuity. Like, so these black shrouded nuns would,
We'll call them nuns. Yeah,
yeah, we'll call them nuns. They would come in through rooms in the house. It wasn't always that portal wall, that brick wall that they talked about. But
right.
whenever they came into the house, fucking fog would come in like, dude, like they got a good deal on fog juice because holy shit, this fog was everywhere. And they were really specific with it. There was one shot where they were like, "Oh no, the nuns are back," and you could see fog emitting through a crack in a bedroom door, but the bedroom door was wide open, and no fog was coming from anywhere else in the bedroom and spilling out of the big opening in the door. It was coming out of the little crack where the door and the wall meet.
Yes,
So it
yes.
was like, okay, so they're
It's
coming there,
it just floors me, dude.
and they so one at one point, just another point regarding where they kind of got lost in some things. The little boy gets abducted by the spirit of the serial killer woman
Yes,
because we assume she has a connection with this house that's unstated outside of where there's in the her Bible there's a picture of Baphomet. There's also like Baphomet's a drawing, and in the book next to Baphomet there is a black and white picture photograph of this house.
yes, yes.
That's all the context they give to connect the serial killer to the house.
Correct.
So, serial killer lady's ghost picks up the son and takes him to the other dimension. Okay,
Chuck E.
great.
Cheese. Yes.
They all know where the son is. Like they all know that he got taken because daughter comes downstairs, she says, "Oh no, they took the boy into the other world." They then go searching all throughout the house looking for their son. After they know exactly where he is, but I think they did that just to set up that the point when the mom crosses over into the other dimension, for some
Right.
reason this time through a mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this movie is insanity. There's there's so much praying in this. There is so much inconsistency. Um the dialogue in some scenes, like, every movie has a scene when you move into a house and they get Chinese food or they get pizza and they
Right.
eat on the
But
floor.
I know exactly what you're talking about. The opening, hey, we're finally in the home of our dreams that no one of us ever saw before we purchased it. And that's not how houses are really bought. Let's sit in this and enjoy this takeout food because we don't have real food yet and everything's in boxes.
Exactly. And they tried to do that here, but they did it in the worst way where they're all at the dinner table and the mom comes in and says, "I messed up the eggs." So this mom can't fucking cook eggs the right way.
I don't remember that.
She she fucked up the delivery so bad. She's serving the food, which I'll get to in a minute, from a pot onto the plates of the family members. And she goes, "Well, I messed up the eggs." Like there was another food she was supposed to say, but she couldn't remember, so she just went with the first thing.
Oh.
So eggs is what she fucked up. So in the place of eggs, she made beans. So she's dishing out beans to the family, and the young son says, "Oh, I love beans." To which his sister replies, "But they make you stinkies."
And then the whole family
It was
giggles.
a real family moment after the Bible got defaced.
You're going to hell, little boy, but you make stinkies in your sister's room.
Yeah, like,
It's it.
and then the lights went out for no reason, and I wrote a note that says, "Oh no, the lights! It's the night farter." And then the daughter says in the dark, "I can't eat in the dark. I can't find my mouth."
Oh
And
my
the
god, I love that. And
the little brother responds, "It's under your nose."
like
Like,
real fucking cocky. Like, shut up, Billy.
Yeah. And then, and dude, okay, can we talk about the dad for a minute? The dad priest.
Please.
This guy
Really
mugged it up so bad.
mugged it up.
Dude, he was just making silly faces and
Oh.
trying so hard. He was just mugging for the camera.
I thought you mispronounced fuck.
Oh,
It's like, is that something the kids are saying now?
like I think someone told this dad, "Hey, you look like an Italian version of Tom Cruise." And I think he was
Oh,
riding that high and he was like, "Yeah, and I'm going to be the fun dad."
good point. Good point. Yep.
And it's every scene. And okay,
Oh, okay. So while we're on this topic, I don't want to go on too long because our Betamax tape is only so long.
right, yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about the radio scene real quick.
Oh my god, thank you for bringing that up.
So what? Sorry, I'll talk about the radio scene real quick.
I feel like I've commanded a lot of the conversation. I feel bad.
So there were the family sitting at dinner, and the radio just turns on, and it's kind of like a slight chanting. It's kind of staticky chanting, and they turn it off, and they're like, "What was that? Oh, it kind of sounds like non-Christian chanting." And the
Yes.
radio turns back on, and it's like this big sting music moment, and the chanting's louder. The dad goes over, is like, "Well, fuck this shit, I'm gonna unplug it." And anyone who's ever seen a movie before goes, "Well, it's gonna turn back on because that's
Absolutely.
what ghost things do." But instead, the fucking radio makes a linebacker bust through the line straight at the table. And it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, "Oh, damn you, Beyond the Darkness! You are a sneaky little fucker trying to get at me like this." What was your take on this scene?
This was the most ridiculous scene ever because recalling from memory when this happened right after they did their dinner prayer, which was like the 30th prayer in the movie. But they look and like you said, it's like they didn't, excuse me, I sneezed.
Oh,
Um,
God bless you, Andrew.
they almost act like they didn't know what a radio was, and like this movie was shot in the 90s. The radio was from like the 50s. So everyone's seen one of these old, like, it's like the type of radio your grandparents had, like, this is what we used to listen to the talkies on when FDR had the fireside chats. Like it was those kind of radios where it's really basic. There's no smart technology. And then they're like, it happens. They hear the prayer and they go, it must have been the radio. Like, no shit. It was lit up. There's fog all over it because, it's evil.
And because they got a bonus on fog at the fog store.
Yeah. And then, like, but what that kind of set it up to, like, okay, they're fucking idiots. And then when it, like you said, when it does that linebacker lunge at them at the dinner table and explodes, then shit gets real and, like, the house goes crazy and the ghost just didn't want them to eat dinner. Because the ghost is like, fuck these plates, fuck that silverware. And it just destroys all the eating utensils in the house.
The last time you had beans, it was stinky.
Yeah, you made the stinkies. And so, but I will say, of that whole shit of a scene, like that whole fucking scene that's just an abomination, I really dug the shot with the cleaver.
Did you? Because I wanted to bring that up as the opposite. And this is where I felt like the Evil Dead 2 references were coming into play.
Yes. I dug the shot because it felt like that Sam Raimi, the eyeball getting kicked out of the head and then flying into Bobby Joe's mouth. Like, it had that feel to it. It just went on too long.
Yep.
But I thought that alone, it was like in a world of 2 shots and 3 shots, this is, this and that opening continuous shot were pretty unique and, dare I say it, bold decisions for the director to take, considering how boring and bland the camera work is in the rest of the movie.
Okay, super good insight. Okay.
What were your thoughts of the cleaver shot?
I thought it felt like they had watched Evil Dead 2. They thought it was really funny, but they were like, okay, how can we take this kind of throwing an eyeball across the room into a scarier thing? And they had the cleaver, but instead of having the cleaver like in the air, And I think maybe like with their budget, they were worried about making something that looked like an Ed Wood scene with something that was obviously on
Yes.
strings in the air. So they held the meat cleaver right underneath the camera lens, so it looks like it's flying up on its own.
Mhm.
But the problem with that is, again, the camera is being handheld, so it looks like someone's picking it up. So I was like, who the fuck is in the room? But then it kind of dawned on me, like it's supposed to be the ghost, the dead lady.
Yeah.
And then when it comes at the door, I thought it was a little hokey. So when it busts through the door, I wanted to see the reaction. I wanted to see like something that they teach you in editing is the spectacle is not what's most important. It's
Mhm.
the reaction to the spectacle that drives it home in the audience, whether
Yeah.
it's a positive or a negative reaction. So what I wanted to see is as soon as we cut to the other side of the door, there's this long fucking like second, like even a second long is too long shot of the priest sitting outside the door. And we know the meat cleaver is going to be breaking through the door because of how it's lined up. But then it cuts away back to the meat cleaver and then cuts to the door outside where the meat cleaver is already outside it
Mhm.
and the priest is already looking at it. So we lost that impact because we didn't have the reaction of him twisting his head to look at the door.
And so when you're right, and I definitely feel you. And there were instances they tried to do a lot of things with busting down doors and things that just didn't work. The cleaver is one of those where you're right. The impact was just taken away because they didn't do reaction shots, or they would just show the aftermath of that without
Right.
showing. Yeah, and they did that so much. They did that in the execution scene at the beginning where they didn't see her get executed. She was just dead.
Yes. Yes.
One of my favorite faux pas in this is when during one of those high tension scenes where they're being chased through the house, um, the dad is busting down a door with a fire extinguisher. Do you remember this part?
I do. But
He
busting down is a very liberal term for this.
he's
I
hitting a
would say
door.
lightly touching.
Yeah, he's lightly touching the door, hoping it'll break, as other things are going on in the house. But they do show that he breaks through the door, like the wood splinters, and he's breaking through the door. And then the scene ends, and we never know what's on the other side of the door. And we never see what he was trying to do to get in there, like what was in there. That like there was no resolution of that. He just beat up this door for no reason,
Mm-hmm.
and then it ended, and everything was fine, and we never address it ever again.
Right. Right.
And it so I know our tape's getting a little low. Do you mind if we kind of like talk about the last couple of minutes of the movie and like pull a resolution together on this? Because there's some things that there's a really big plot hole that we haven't addressed that I think we need to talk about, and I'm hoping you picked up on it.
Okay, I'm hoping I am too. And I would love to talk about the last part of this movie because it was my favorite part of the movie because it ended.
Yes, but
Yes.
it ended.
Please, go ahead.
It ended so poorly. So okay.
Jesus Christ, that's an understatement. And I don't know if you looked away or anything, but I watched it to the very fucking last shot, like
I
the
did
very
too.
last frame.
Yep.
Okay, so please
So
unload.
where to even start? Okay. So the young Troll 2 boy, he goes to the other dimension. The mom willingly goes in to grab her son, pulls him back out. We see they're trying to escape the house. They escape the house with the son. She puts him in the back seat of the car, looks up to the roof, and finds out he's still in the house. And a demon version of the son is what they took out of the other dimension.
Right.
So then something happens. I can't remember. And the mother and the daughter end up at the church, right? With,
Okay.
with the priest. And so the mom tries to leave the daughter with the priest, and the daughter says some things that, Andrew today is saying, yeah, that's a correct statement. She looks at the priest and says, she looks at the mom. Yeah, she looks at the mom and says, "Oh no." The priest tells the mom that she shouldn't leave the daughter with the priest because it's not safe. And I thought,
Not
well,
safe for your kid.
yeah,
You're
because the
right.
priest is probably going to diddle him. You're right. That's a bad statement. And then the daughter says that the priest is bad, as
Yes.
if she's been diddled by the priest already.
It's like that's what I'm saying. Like that's one of those things that I'm astonished don't bring up more aspects of theory behind this music, behind this movie, because there's a lot of stuff this movie's touching on inadvertently.
Yes. I don't think
And
it knew what it was saying at that moment. I think
no, I
that
don't
was
think
a
it's,
deeper meaning thing.
the priest is bad. Yeah, little Jilly,
Yeah,
we know.
he is.
The bruises under your shirt because oranges don't bruise as bad.
Yeah, right. The Valencia oranges in a sack.
Oh Jesus, it was cringy.
Oh,
It made me feel uncomfortable. Where it was like, oh,
but
you're, and then they didn't go down that route, so it's like, oh, you just really fucked the pooch on this one.
they
So
go they go an even worse route though, because I don't. You might not have. You probably did pick up on it, but
maybe I didn't.
so the wife goes back home. She leaves
Hmm.
the daughter with the priest, goes
Yes.
back home. While the wife is driving, because this town is like 6 hours away apparently. The two priests are fighting the devil, the evil inside. Our alcoholic possessed priest gets put in a homemade electric chair, and then like the other priest who is the dad of the kids, he's like trying to save him, and then alcohol priest who was possessed, maybe kind of, he like dies, I think, but he has this touching moment with God where he like accepts everything, and it's really pretentious and convoluted. And then the mom shows back up, right?
Mm-hmm.
After everything's happened, the mom shows back up. She is in a hallway. Husband comes into the hallway. She runs like 70 feet down this hallway, staring at her husband with an axe, saying, "Oh, that's my husband. I'm still going to try and kill him with an axe."
Yes. Yes. I honestly thought that maybe the wife was possessed, or the wife thought the priester was possessed, but it was like there was never an indication where I thought that the wife was like, "There's something here. I need to kill it." Like it's obvious they knew who each other were.
Yeah, there was and plenty of time for her to see, "Oh, that's my husband. He looks fine."
Yes, exactly. So I was like, "So okay, obviously there's something else." Oh no, it's just bad direction. Okay.
Yes. So they get the son who's no longer possessed, and they say finally, because for the last hour of the movie they were just trying to get out of the house. So now they're getting out of the house. They get the kid in the back seat, the son's in the back seat, the mom and the dad, and they get in the car and they start pulling away. Right.
Yeah.
The priest that the daughter is with, the priest is doing magic hoodoo and he dies. He like has a stroke out while he's helping fight the evil, right? So
Obviously.
he
Yeah.
dies. He dies. Family drives off. Movie ends. They never picked up the daughter. They left her with a dead
Yep.
corpse of a priest.
I actually thought that too. Yep.
They never picked up. They never went back for the daughter.
Yep.
That is like the biggest plot hole ever.
Andrew, is that a plot hole or an opening for a sequel?
Ooh, I think sequel.
Obviously. And I think the other plot thing that we didn't really get from this movie until after watching it was the entire film is an allegory for buying and selling a house in a recession. It's you buy a house that you don't know a lot about, you're really regretful of your decision, and you can't fucking get out of it without going underwater.
It's yeah.
Until you just leave your house with a comatose little boy. That's
I mean, before all this happened, I mean that's the exact situation I was in my personal life.
really.
Yeah, that's how I bought my house.
Oh my god. I didn't know. Just
It's you don't want to talk about it a lot.
did did you put an inverted cross in your front lawn with a knife in it to say that it was sold?
Oh my God. Okay, you just brought up a part of the movie I forgot about, and I just remembered. Wasn't there a scene when one of the kids was laying in a coffin, and the mom and the dad were standing there with a giant crucifix that just had a knife taped to it?
Yes.
Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm
Oh, I forgot about that. That was so bad, dude. Like, and I'm just this movie is a high like I think this movie is a nightmare. I don't know what else to say. Like, Dude, it's so preachy with all the religious stuff and some of these plot holes, and the acting is so bad. And it's like that speech that the priest gives at the end, which is supposed to be like he found his faith and all that. It's so pretentious.
It felt like a pamphlet for the church. And that's what kind of sealed my opinion was it was like, okay, this is obviously funded by some people in the church.
Yeah. I I just it honestly it should the movie should have ended when the priest died. Like it felt like okay, that's a resolution. But it didn't. It just kept going. Um but and that's why I guess I'm this is an interesting movie, and this movie has an interesting history to it. And I know I kind of teed you up by telling you like this movie has relations to other very popular movies that we like.
Right.
But I never really drove it home as to how everything is connected and why this movie is kind of important to some bigger movies.
Oh, okay. So let's touch on that really quick because you brought up this little nugget of information that I had zero idea about.
Yeah, and this is interesting to me. So, um, things that we've already talked about, like, hey, we know this director and the main kid were in Troll 2. And the director was the writer director of Troll 2.
Hmm.
Um, I will say a little tidbit here. Linda Blair was offered the lead role in this movie.
Really?
Yes, and she turned it down. And I
Of the
think
little girl? I think she's too old for her.
no, this was in the 90s, so she would have been the mom because
Oh,
that just again it
I would not call that the lead role.
no.
Okay, but
I
please go
I
on.
agree, but that again it kind of reinforces that exorcist poltergeist blender situation. Um, if there are any Lucio Fulci fans out there, Italian horror movie director, this house was the same house as the movie The Beyond.
You're fucking kidding me.
Yes, it was the same southern Louisiana house, and if you remember, this was also set in Louisiana. They keyed that up at the beginning. That's where it was a Louisiana State Penitentiary is where
Oh
the
shit! I didn't pick up on that.
so this is set in the South in the 90s in the United States. By the way, that house, oh, the house explodes at the end of the movie. I forgot about that. The house explodes at the end of the movie, and the house that explodes at the end of the movie is not the white house that this movie was set in. It was a just a model of some other house. It's very different.
Okay.
But that's not how that connects to other movies. So in Italy, when American movies get popular and they come over, they go overseas, they retitle the movies. So, like, for example, the movie The Evil Dead, or more specifically, The Evil Dead 2 and Evil Dead, those were titled in Italy La Casa, or The
Right. Right.
House. And there is a series of films called La Casa. So La Casa 1 is Evil Dead 1. La Casa 2 is Evil Dead 2. Now, they were hugely successful, like hugely successful in Italy. And so Joe D'Amato, who is really just a sleaze film director, he wanted to ride that popularity high. So he started producing movies called La Casa, and they were
Hmm.
in sequential number order. You've heard of some of these. So the next movie made in the series of the La Casa movies, La Casa 3 was also known as Ghost House. And that movie, I'm sure we'll end up watching it if you haven't seen it, but
I just saw that box cover.
yes, and it is about a clown and a spirit and a ham radio. Oh, and there's this really bad song in it whenever the evil clown spirit show. Like it's really bad. So that's La Casa 3.
Okay.
La Casa 4 is known as Witchery, and that one does have Linda Blair in it.
Really?
Yes. La Casa 5 is Beyond Darkness. Now, there is a La Casa 6 and a La Casa 7. La Casa 6 is House 2, the second story, and La Casa 7 is House 3, the horror show. So,
Wait. What?
yes.
Why
So,
is this so all over the map?
they don't really have a plan. They kind of ride off the popularity. It's like the Asylum movies where, Transformers comes out and they put out Transmorphers. So they're
Yeah.
riding the high of successful movies with the same name, and they just unofficially license it. Kind of like what happened with Lucio Fulci when he made Zombie 2.
Yeah, well, right. Based off of Dawn of the Dead, right?
Right, and that was Zombie 1. And then another one like that is Demons. So Demons is really popular. So there's Demons 1, Demons 2, and then there's a movie called Demons 3, The Ogre, which has nothing to do with anything, but it's just they're riding the high of the title.
Wasn't that exactly what the director of Troll 2 did? He took a movie that
Yep,
had nothing to do with the original fucking film of Troll and just called it Troll 2.
100%. Because Troll is actually kind of fun.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not good, but it's got like the dad's name or the kid's name is Harry Potter, which you have to respect. Just
You're kidding.
it's his name is Harry Potter. Um, there's a little girl who looks like Carol Ann, but I don't think it was Carol Ann. Sonny Bono is in it. Um, the
Holy shit.
the dad, the dad, I think the dad was in Blade Runner. He's been
Everyone
in
was Blade
he's
Runner.
Yeah, he's been in some stuff, but it's a troll lives in an apartment building and takes Julie it was Julia Louis Dreyfus's first film.
No shit.
Yeah, and like this troll lets loose and like tries to take over an apartment building. So then Troll 2 they come in and this one, granted the town's name is Goblin,
Right.
but
Nilbog.
Nilbog, thank you. So it's like kind of the same, but it's different. But yeah, they ride these title highs, and it's so deceiving. It's like, oh, this is part of that film franchise, when really it's not in any way, shape, or form.
So what number does our movie today fall into the Kaza series?
This is the fifth iteration of La Casa.
Fifth. So okay, so it's nowhere near a fucking true sequence of movies. It's nowhere near
No.
a consistent plot from one to the next. It's just a thematic. So would you put this on par? I mean, obviously, it's not on par with like Red, White, and Blue or the Escapism trilogy, like Brazil and Time Bandits and
Hmm.
Baron Munchausen. But because like they're obviously other movies and they're just literally stealing it. Like, how is that legal? How is that allowed?
That's what I don't get. Like, how can you get away with naming your movie just a numbered iteration of a copywritten title? I don't get it. I don't get how you can get away with that. Because even though the movie's different or not related, the title still is, and in my opinion, that's misleading.
Mm-hmm. And I know foreign markets are different than an American audience. And when how we grew up is if there was a sequel to a movie, you know, it obviously was part of that storyline. Like RoboCop 2, it better fucking have RoboCop in it, and
Right.
maybe an ED209, because that's what we loved. And if it didn't, if RoboCop was like, you know, hand steel hands of steel,
Hmm.
where it
Hmm.
was obviously a RoboCop ripoff, and they just called it RoboCop 2, you would have a death of a franchise.
Hmm.
Like the American audience is fickle and picky, and well, this has nothing to do with the first one. Fuck you, stop doing this, and I'm going to stop, you know, funding you. But I'm wondering if a foreign audience is just like, this movie is the same name as another movie. It's part 3 of another movie that I enjoyed. It has nothing to do with it, so I'll probably enjoy it. I I don't know. That seems, for lack of a better term, foreign to me.
Unless, I mean, we might need to go down the rabbit hole a little further, but maybe, I know we've talked about this in the past. Maybe this is something similar along the lines of like what they do with the Hellraiser series.
Okay, but the Hellraiser series has gone on record. I wish they would say it in the fucking films, but it's gone on record and said the only reason they keep making fucking movies is so they can own the title of Hellraiser.
Well, and that's why I'm almost thinking maybe that's the ploy. Maybe that's like the reason that they keep doing that, because it's they're trying to hold on to that, the naming for the franchise
Okay.
of La Casa, knowing what it's so popular for Evil Dead 1 and 2, which yeah, I imagine it would be a fucking $1 million title franchise.
Right.
But if it's they make a movie and they don't know what to call it, and then this production company swoops in and says, "Oh, we'll call it La Casa 3." because we need a movie to release with that title to keep our copyright.
And then the actual distribution company that made the film is like, fuck it, give us these royalties, give us this money. You can call it whatever the fuck you want in your country.
Yeah. No. This movie's so deep. Imagine if Tommy Wiseau was in charge of a horror franchise, and it's like that. Like it's so deep in his eyes.
I would buy it, Andrew.
Oh fuck yeah, I would buy it in a heartbeat.
I saw a horror film. Yeah.
I think I wrote a note during this movie. I felt like George the Priest had a very Tommy Wiseau style of acting.
Oh, he did.
Less like ha 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 ha, but
more like, you're killing me, Lisa.
Yes, he was more on that aggressive angle, and like the dad priest, the Tom Cruise looking priest, he was that Greg Sestero, where he was like the good looking guy. He's like, this is an opportunity for me to flex what I've got, and he ended up like making faces the whole movie because he didn't know what to do or how to be okay. And jumping back a little bit, how the fuck did they hear the phone ringing inside the foyer of the house when they were like in a field in the middle of nowhere?
Well, the middle of nowhere, noise travels, Andrew. And I don't know if you know that.
Apparently, because I'm like, wait. You heard that phone? Oh yeah. God, this movie, dude, it was something.
It was great. Its best contribution is going to be warming ourselves as we burn it tonight.
Yes, I agree. This is one where it's not worth the tape that it's printed on, and quite frankly, I can't believe they were trying to rent this for $5.99 for 3 nights. That is just an absolute ripoff.
No wonder this place is boarded up already.
Yeah, right?
Holy
they're making
shit.
no money with the prices they're charging.
Speaking of tapes here, I have 10 tapes on this wall right here. Oh, okay. I'm gonna grab these two tapes. Hold on. Let me put them behind my back. All right. Right or left?
I did left last time, and that put us in this shitty scenario. So this time we're gonna go right.
Right. We have Unmasked Part 25.
Ooh.
I don't think I've seen the other 24 parts of this movie.
I almost feel like it's got a Leonard Part 6 type of feel. Like maybe those 24 parts don't exist.
Oh.
And I would be okay with that if that's really the case.
I would be very okay with that too.
Because I dig that ambiguity with things.
Yes. Leonard Part 6 was a weird movie because I got it even as a kid.
Yeah.
And when I watched it as an adult, I was like, oh, okay, it's the same aesthetic. I thought I would grow into this and understand it more, but it was really well told. You know, it wasn't a good movie, but I loved it for what it was.
I've seen the cover of Unmasked Part 25.
Yes. You're seeing it right now.
I'm looking at it now. I actually like it. Like it looks, it sets a good intonation. Like, oh, this might be like, is it a monster movie? Is it a slasher movie? Like, I don't know. But it's drawing me in to want to find out.
Right.
So let's
let's go ahead and
oh shit, hold on. Something's wrong with the recorder here.
Oh, what's going on with it?
Oh shit, we're running out of
tape.
Hold on.
Again?
Get some help.
Okay.
Guys, remember, we're here at the video store. We want you to remember where we are.
We want you to help us
If you can drop a key to something,
or just bang on the doors and let us know.
as always, we want you to remember to be kind and rewind all
All your tapes after watching
them.
And remember, you can call this number. We have a phone
Now, the number is area code 3.